you live in the best time in the history of the world. You do. Now, I'm going to warn you, it could be about to become the worst. Totally could. But that's true in every generation. Have you actually read the book of Judges? Anybody? Okay, you might have gotten some cool stories out of it, but what you should have gotten out of it is that these battles have to be refought every generation. And the thing that gets lost, I notice, because I teach all the way through the Bible every single year. I have a for-profit company. I'm not one of the preachers. And at my company, my staff reads Genesis to Revelation all the way through January 1 to December 31 every single year. And we do Bible study on Monday mornings for 4 hours. Professor Martin teaches, and the rest of them try not to yawn too much where I can see it. And there's probably some, watching of TikTok videos and stuff. You just never know with these people. I don't know why I pay them, but regardless, that's what we do. So I've got people who have been through the Bible all the way from beginning to end with me several times. That's kind of a cool thing to do. You should do it. Everybody's got a different Bible study they like and all kinds of different orders they like to read the Bible in, assuming that they read the Bible at all, which most Christians don't. But you should read it cover to cover every year, because God didn't just inspire the words, he inspired the order. He did. And that means there is stuff you can learn from the order in which he reveals himself in the Word. So whatever you're currently doing, do that. That's great, but do this too. You will find it transformative over time. You'll start to see the big picture. They gave me a title of To the Moon and Back. You might have gathered I'm a big picture kind of guy. It seems to me that the Bible needs to be seen from a big picture point of view. We kind of pride ourselves sometimes on digging in on one verse and really studying this one verse for a month, and this demonstrates how holy we are or whatever. Sometimes you need to step back and actually see the forest and not just the trees. God sees the whole forest. God had figured out exactly what he was going to do with you before the foundation of the world. He had actually decided exactly what your height was, exactly what faults you were going to have, exactly what virtues you were going to have, exactly what gifts you would and would not have before there was an earth. He's a big picture guy too. And it's
what if
important.
You could join a network of business leaders who share your Christian values, who reject the separation of faith and business, and who have a fierce vision for success? Welcome to Business Makers Network, a network that strives to create community, build intellectual wealth and practical business knowledge, and grow thriving businesses for the kingdom. We're not just another business network. We are a community of unapologetic Christian leaders who understand that success in business blesses our customers, blesses our families and employees, and in the end drives greater profits. All of Christ for all our business efforts as we aim to take the talents God has given us and turn them into 30, 60, and 100-fold. With a combined net worth already exceeding $1 billion in committed memberships, our members are reshaping the business landscape while staying true to our Christian values and taking dominion in the lanes God has paid for us. As a member, you'll gain exclusive access to our Business Makers Network app, discounts to live workshop events, network calls with key influencers, access to like-minded Christian business leaders, a pool of hands-on intellectual wealth and practical business knowledge, mentorship and menteeship programs. We will be rolling those out over the coming year. Read-only access for the tier above you for educational purposes. Invitations to our annual corporate partner dinner. Networking events at the Fight Laugh Feast conference. We offer membership tiers designed to match your business journey. From our exclusive Double Diamond level for industry titans, to our green membership for promising startups, to our MVP tier that is looking for a community of Christian, like-minded business leaders. There's a place for every serious business leader in our community. Your network is your net worth. Join Business Makers today and become a part of a movement that is changing the face of Christian business leadership. Visit our website now to secure your membership and step into a community where faith, business, and success align.
I wonder what the topic is.
Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby, Chalk Knox, I'm the Water Boy. And we're going to talk about the economy.
Yeah.
No. We're talking about
money.
Money.
I was listening very closely to the words in those songs, and there was a common thread.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
With the David Bahnsen.
The money man.
The money man.
The money man.
Yes. That's his nickname that Fox and Friends can now use, or whoever he's going on a Fox.
The money ninja. The money ninja. Are you a Christian struggling to find companies that align with your values and beliefs? Squirrely Joe's has you covered for all your coffee needs. All of their coffee is hand selected. I always just pick
every bean.
Just
bean.
Every single bean.
He goes in and picks it. Yep.
Roasted fresh every day by a family of fellow believers. Try them out. You'll savor exceptional coffee while knowing that your investment supports a company committed to following God's teachings and upholding truth and righteousness, ensuring your hard-earned money. Whoa. Come on. It jumped. Contributes to the growth of God's kingdom. Stop giving your hard-earned dollars to pagans who support evil. We have a fantastic offer for our audience. Your first bag of coffee is free. All you have to do is cover the shipping costs. Head over to squirrelyjoes.com/crosspolitic. That's squirrelyjoes.com/crosspolitic to claim your free bag of coffee today. David L. Bahnsen is the founder and chief investment officer of the Bahnsen Group, managing over $7 billion in client assets and a frequent contributor to CNBC, Fox News, National Review, and Cross Politics.
That's right.
He also hosts.
He doesn't claim us, but we claim him.
He also hosts the Capitol Record podcast and serves on the board of directors for the Acton Institute. David, thank you for joining us again on Cross Politics.
Thank you for having me, and I absolutely claim cross politics.
Wow.
And David, if I didn't, why would I be here right now?
It's true.
You know, this is like a welfare for us. That's all. You know.
He doesn't believe in welfare. He doesn't believe in welfare.
There's a little part of his heart that does.
No, Pastor, I believe in voluntary welfare. I don't believe in compulsory welfare. So I think he's saying I'm doing voluntary welfare.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I just don't like calling that welfare.
It's just love. It's just love.
I want to call it. Yeah, I want to call it the debt of love, charity.
There you go.
So it's been quite an opening to this new year. The new president, just all of the things that he's been up to. We want to start with just asking you if there is one thing our audience needs to hear about the economy right now. What would you say that is?
If there were only one thing, well, of course, there's a lot more than one thing. And so
Sure.
but if I were only saying one thing, it would be that the number one thing about the economy is not, never has been, and never will be a political thing. That's the biggest frustration I have, is that the country right now, and I mean the right as much as the left, is so bought into an idea that all of our economic interpretation has to be viewed through the lens of partisanship. And that what is bad when in the economy, when a guy we don't like is president, is because of that president. What is good when a guy that we don't like as president is good for other reasons. And then you inverse all of that when you have a guy you do like. That is not just somewhat embarrassing, but it's really dangerous in terms of economic decision-making, investment decision-making. And I think a lot of us have been living with this. I'm 50, and I would say the amount of money that people on my side of certain theological and political debates have lost by an excessive bearishness rooted to political view, a negativity connected to a political view, how much money it has cost them is unfathomable. Let's put it this way. It could fund New St. Andrews College for 1,000 years.
Or Cross Politic.
What?
That too. I would say a lot of organizations could be funded with the amount of money not made.
I want to push back
Well,
on that.
I want to first. I
Well,
want
I wanna
to
understand it.
define. Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
define a
Okay.
little bit more. So explain that claim you just made. People who, with our theological convictions, our worldview, you're saying we are some of the people that have been most duped by viewing finances, economics through a political lens.
No, I actually, I do believe that, but the point I was making was just any form of an embedded pessimism rooted to things we are concerned about in the political sphere that gets in the way of understanding what really makes an economy tick, which therefore must inevitably affect investment decisions unless people are making their investment decisions on something else. That has been extremely counterproductive, that there has been massive economic growth and massive investment opportunity in risk-bearing assets, despite a significant amount of political dysfunction. But the major point I was making, Pastor, is that you asked me for one main economic truism right now, and it would be that the primary driver of an economic activity is never going to be who the president is.
Can you give an example of the kind of thing you're talking about?
About the negativity issue?
Yes.
Sure. A permanent repudiation of public equity markets in favor of gold.
Okay. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, fine.
Just to pick one out of a tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should I invest in Tesla right now or not?
We do not own Tesla. That's what I will say. That does not mean Tesla will not go up. It means that we consider it unattractive when you are measuring risk versus reward.
Okay.
You
wanted to push back.
Yeah, I wanted to push back just a little bit on it because I'm the embarrassing guy in the room, and David was talking about that crowd being embarrassing.
You're like, so how much did you put in gold and how much did you...
Well, I think a little bit of your comments are probably connected to like when Biden's president, conservatives were like, well, he's screwing us in the economy. When Trump's president, well, he's trying to fix the Biden economy, and so it's going to get better, right? That kind of thing. So I agree with you on that, but I still like this is not a bad way to put it, but in reality, it feels like, okay, last year inflation went up 30, the last couple of years, inflation's been going up. I would actually tie that back to stimulus money, both conservatives and Democrats.
Well, when you say conservatives, you mean the 2020 president?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, because the conservatives, the Republican Party passed 2 stimulus packages. Where's my hands here? 2 stimulus packages, and Biden passed 1 stimulus package totaling about close to $8 trillion.
And so if I can, the one Biden passed was the one Trump tried to pass that didn't. So he passed.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I'm with you on that, but I guess people feel like, oh man, inflation gone up under the Biden administration.
Yeah.
A bunch of chickens died, so eggs went up under the Biden administration. You know, it's like.
Now wait. That prepositional phrase. A bunch of chickens died under the Biden administration.
Was it under the Trump administration? Because
no, but it's a post hoc ergo propter hoc that is like so extremely obvious. My point is that you're making a great example of my point.
Yeah.
I'm the
embarrassing guy.
There is policy connection to the price increases in 2022. There is no policy connection to chickens dying and egg prices going up. And as the chickens stop dying and the egg prices come down, there will be no policy connection to that either. So only a partisan and messianic view of politics would lead one to believe Biden caused the chickens to die and Trump caused the chickens to live. But let's use a bigger example than chickens dying. The stock market was up 8 out of 8 years when Barack Obama was president.
Yeah.
Every conservative person I talked to in the aftermath of Obama's election, for perfectly valid prima facie reasons, was concerned about what Obama would do to the economy. We absolutely had subpar growth in the Obama presidency. We should have had much better economic growth. He absolutely created more long-term embedded economic challenges,
and
as every president of this new millennium has done, by the way.
Yeah.
So long-term, holding on to the debt issue that all of these Congresses and presidents are helping to exacerbate is very legitimate. But my point is attaching that to one's view of will jobs be there? Will wages be there? Will investment assets do well? And all I said was connecting that as the number one factor being who's president. I didn't say it isn't a factor. Policy matters, Gabe.
That's fair. Yeah.
And policy matters more when presidents remove impediments. I don't think there's a lot they can do to drive a better economy, but there's a lot they can do to remove an impediment to a natural organic economy. But because this is so theological to me, and I'm telling you, and I've said this to you guys before, this is the mission of my life. This is what God put me on earth for. There is a fundamental factor in economics that too many Christians don't understand. And that factor is the created human person living out their created human design, what God designed them to do. That's what drives economic activity, our productive capacity. So today the consumer confidence report came out and everyone does what they do, hand wringing. It's the lowest it's been in years. The consumer is afraid. First of all, the consumer doesn't drive economic activity. Second of all, the consumer's confidence certainly doesn't. You know how many people say, I'm not confident about the economy and go max out their credit card at the bar? I mean, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
If you meet an American that is pulling back on their personal spending, I want to meet that American.
So let me ask a couple more dumb questions.
We need a producer confidence index, right, David?
Well, we have it, but it doesn't get the attention because they're Keynesian, Toby, and so they say that the consumer is 70% of the economy, and I want to know what these consumers are buying that wasn't first produced.
That's good.
You can call that the 100%. Chicken and egg fallacy.
And they're killing all the chickens.
And go ahead,
I'm more clever than people give me credit for.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
That's not true. That's not true, David. I'm sitting right here.
Economics would be so funny.
I've got another question, but you said you had another.
Yeah, I just wanted to push on this just a little more, because I totally agree with you on the partisan thing, and it's something that you've kind of convinced me over the years on. And I'd say the other theological connection here is God says, even when times are bad, go to work. Produce, work hard. Your book, that encourages us to work more. The parable of the talents. God gives you something, and don't bury it. Go, make a profit off it. Yeah. So there's this theology that pushes back even against the administration or political impact on our society and on our economy, but there's still the price of oil is starting to go down. Biden did, stop the Keystone Pipeline. Biden was against letting permits. I know he's getting armed and ready here.
Yeah.
And so, my gas prices were high the last 4 years.
No, but they weren't though. I mean, listen, I'm not upset ideologically what you're saying. I agree, but I just want to give the facts. Oil's at 69 a barrel right now. It averaged in the low 70s throughout the Biden administration. It spiked up to 120 in 2021, 22 after the Russia-Ukraine deal. And there's no question that Biden stood for lower U.S. production.
Yeah.
But that is a problem over 10 years. We've never in our country's history produced more oil than we did in 2023 and 2024 when Joseph Biden was president. We would have been.
He didn't know. He didn't know.
No, he didn't know, and it wasn't because. But my point, Gabe, is he also didn't care. Kamala didn't campaign on it. They weren't bragging about it. So I'm saying it is a feature. They saw it as a bug because of the radical environmental leftist in their party.
Yeah.
But where he was truly problematic and where the Trump administration is going to be outstanding is for our ability to export liquefied natural gas to other countries. We have the ability to do that. And Biden inexplicably decided to put a moratorium on approving permits for construction of new export terminals. So the Europeans are approving terminals for intake, and we're stopping permits for terminals for outtake. It's absurd. But that's a 10-year story. I have 8 out of 10 rating for the Trump administration on certain elements of tax policy. And there's other things I have a lower rating for deregulation and tax. I'm really high. But on energy, I'm 10 out of 10. It's the highest rating I have for Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0. I'm just simply saying that we have to use a partisan connectivity to say that Biden made our gas prices go up or down. By the way, when were gas prices the lowest in the last 18 years? In 2008, when George Bush was leaving office, because we were in a recession.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Bush was really good and he got us lower gas prices.
Well, and we also had a trade surplus. And everyone's saying how bad a trade deficit is. But every time the American economy's been in a recession, we have a trade surplus. People don't seem to like it very much.
So how do you think this thought process, this theology of the economy is actually affecting conservatives from actually winning, actually, making good decisions and winning off the situation?
Well, look, there were pretty outstanding returns in investment markets through the last 3 Democrat presidents, and I would venture to guess that some conservatives didn't experience them for the same reason some Democrats didn't experience great returns in the Trump administration,
right?
Because they decided to irrationally connect with the expected in investment markets from who was president. The returns in the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, and yes, the Biden administration were very, very good. But there's a difference between causation and correlation.
Right.
The reason that markets usually go up no matter who's president is because markets usually go up, period.
If you were president, what would be your economic policies?
First, I demand a recount.
Fair.
My policies would look a little bit more like Calvin Coolidge than Donald Trump. I would favor an approach of trying to get government out of the way and not impose into the economy. Calvin Coolidge had brought the capital gain rate down to 12.5%. I believe it does unspeakable damage to economic growth to tax capital formation as heavily as we do.
Yeah.
And I would certainly want a flatter. I don't think it's politically doable to get to a flat tax right now, but that would be my end run. But if I were president, I'd be working to get a flatter tax system.
Mm-hmm.
You already mentioned a couple of these things, David, but what in your mind would be some of the key economic wins in the Trump administration, and what are some losses?
Well, and you mean in the first 60 days or
Yes,
or what I'm expecting in the next 4 years?
Let's start with 60 days first, and then I want to know what you're expecting.
Maybe both.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any significant wins or losses yet. There's more just some stake in the ground on economic issues, right?
Okay.
I mean, I think that a lot of the deregulation stuff, and certainly the attempt to move DEI out of certain elements of public life, those are all wins. Anything done by executive order, I'll take the victory, but I'm not going to celebrate it because it can go away as quickly as it came.
Right.
Exactly 50% of Trump's executive orders so far were just undoing a Biden executive order. And you can have President AOC in 4 years who undoes Trump executive orders. So
Yep.
I don't get super animated by imperialistic actions, but some of them I can really agree with and
Sure.
be happy about. But I think from a policy standpoint, the personnel is where I'm focused. And there's a lot of his personnel I like, and I'd credit some of the victories or future victories around where I like the personnel. And then there's some that I think are just god awful.
And what are you foreseeing at this point over the next 4 years?
Well, right now I'm trying to get through the next 4 weeks, and this is just a sort of stylistic difference, and I would argue a little bit philosophical that I have with President Trump is that he does thrive in chaos, and there's a certain uncertainty that he feels he can leverage to his advantage. And I'm not totally convinced it's the best approach. I think you take something like Doge, for example, which I think has already done some good things, is going to do a lot more good things, but I can't even tell you how many good things it could do if they did the exact opposite sequence. Instead of every day posting to a website something they're doing and then having to take it back 2 days later because they made a mistake, which is happening over and over again. If they literally said, we're not tweeting once, we're not posting the website once, we're not talking in a camera once, and then they came out June 1st and said, here's a 100-day report card and told the American people everything they had done, It wouldn't build up public opposition. It wouldn't allow people to mobilize around the inevitable things they're not going to like. You know, people getting fired is not always very popular. And I don't mind that. I mean, I think you have to have some of that. But there's a chaos thing that's unnecessary. And I really love what Governor Mitch Daniels said, who in my mind is one of the best governors our country's had in 25 years. What his advice to Doge would be is more or less do what they're doing, but to talk less and do more. Because I think if you come out and tell the American people what you made, I think they're going to like it.
Yeah.
Keep showing them you making it every day. I don't know that they're going to like it.
Do you think that right now, watching the whole tariff thing play out, it seems like everybody's kind of waiting. I think I was looking at your Twitter earlier today. Everybody's waiting for April 2nd, I believe. Do you think Trump's got his taste of tariffs and is deciding to walk back from that cliff a little bit?
Well, he has to some degree in the last 48 hours, but I don't know what he's going to do in the next 48 minutes. My belief is right now as to where this is going, and I wrote about this at my dividendcafe.com yesterday. I think we're headed to an April 3rd where we don't know a lot more than we knew April 1st, other than that the president is successfully disintermediating all the people. He's really just getting this to a place where it's going to be his random stroke of a pen. You know, this company's in, this company's out, this country's in, this rate, that rate. And he's looking, I think, to score some various PR victories. So I don't believe he is going to go forward with all the things he's threatened. No. But I think that he is fond of the chaos that the way he's approached this has gone so far. And just, you know, I'll share with the cross-politic audience and you guys, there's not common ground within the administration. I think that the Commerce Department and the Treasury Department are very much at odds on this.
That's somewhat been encouraging because it seems weird to me. Everything that I've learned about tariffs, it seemed like it would be a bad idea. And because of this whole populist gathering, this populist movement, it feels like the populist movement have moved the conservatives to agree with them with this whole tariff idea so that we can maintain the attention of people who joined us from the Bernie Sanders group.
Well, let me just prove my point, David, from what I said at the beginning of our time. You just pretend that everything I'm about to say is coming from Jimmy Carter or a real like Union Democrat in the 1980s or AOC or Bernie, because everything I'm about to say is coming from them and over history has come from them. And I just said, we're going to grow the economy by taxing more. And we're going to bring back fairness to the economy by punishing people who have been benefiting in the economy. These are all lines that were totally unacceptable for the Republican right until about 5 minutes ago. And now when they say, well, there's unfair trade deals. And so another country is taking advantage of us. And my view has always been, if I go to buy something and I feel that the price is unfair, I should not buy it. But I've never felt that I need to check with the White House to see what they think first.
Right.
And applying that to whole industries and sectors is the most cronyist thing I've ever heard. But now it's something like 70 or 80% of Republicans are identifying around that way of thinking. And ultimately, this is where the economic ignorance bothers me. It's not just that the partisanship has caused them to buy the rhetoric that is cut and paste from center-left rhetoric for 40 years, but it is that the economics of this are basically saying that if Germany is taxing their importers unfairly, what we ought to do to get back at them is tax our importers unfairly. And I was on a panel in DC last week with the former Senator Pat Toomey of the great state of Pennsylvania, who I adore. And he said, what if you didn't say importing? Like, for those of us who believe a tax is a penalty, what if we said that you're just going to absolutely beat someone with a stick in public? And the sentence was, Germany's beating their people with a stick in public. So to get back at them, we're going to beat our people with a stick.
That is 100%. Now, but I saw you on Fox. I don't know, it was like 2 months ago or maybe a month ago, whatever it was. You said if Trump is using, maybe it's Larry's show, if Trump is using tariffs as a tool, then I can maybe see a place for that. If he's using it as a policy, I'm totally against that.
Yeah.
And one of the maybe arguments for using it as a tool, and maybe this is true or not, is it seems to me that companies like Hyundai are seeing the tool and saying, well, I'm just going to open a factory in Louisiana with 1,500 people.
Well, first of all, that's absolutely what President Trump wants, is the headlines of a company saying we intend to spend a bunch of money. They don't even ever have to do it, but just announcing that they're planning to do it is a big win for him. Yeah. And you know, I'm not going to rain on it. Hyundai saying they're going to do that. And if they're going to hire Americans in Louisiana, and there's a bunch of blue collar Americans, especially ones that hopefully don't have college degrees, and pass a drug test, I love that. So, but they've been doing it for years, Gabe.
Saying it. So if I just said,
no, we've been doing it. Toyota, there's been massive amount of foreign car manufacturers that have been doing things in American states.
Yeah.
Then Nippon Steel, who has right now factories in Louisiana, in North Carolina, they say they want to buy U.S. steel and put billions of dollars of primary equity in this cash-starved company and capital-starved company that desperately needs. And we go, we don't want a foreign owner coming in. So this is where the schizophrenia ideologically is very dangerous. But yes, I don't mind if companies want to invest in the United States. I think it's wonderful. The issue is not if the tariffs are successful negotiating. A lot of my friends on the right don't agree with me about this, but I think you guys will because of our shared faith. I don't believe that in the course of negotiating, in the course of trying to get to a better deal, we have to say things that are blatantly untrue that you can't take back. Mm-hmm. You can't say, I'm just saying this to get Canada to help us with fentanyl, and then say in the State of the Union, Canada's ripping us off because they sell us more than we sell them. Mm-hmm. That economic lesson gets absorbed by people, and it's a ridiculous economic lesson. We buy more from Canada because we're richer than Canada. Wow. And I am so upset about the housing unaffordability issue in our country that the notion of imposing tariffs on the cheapest source of lumber we have, which is Canada, drives me crazy. So that stuff is dangerous.
Well, and here's where I get a little nervous about it too, is in the Bible, foreign investment into a country is not always a healthy thing, right? You know, foreign people coming in to America is not always a positive thing.
Well, it has a dual aspect. It depends on what your stance is with the Lord. It depends on that.
Yeah, right.
So you have people who come to your borders and come to your environment because you're doing so good, and they say, "Wow, look at this great God."
Yeah,
right. If you're unfaithful, you can expect that they'll come there for the other reasons and other purposes to take you over. It's a judgment. So it depends on the two. Right. David, I want you can answer that if you like to. I just thought I did a good enough job.
No, go ahead. You did fine. You did fine.
You know, we share the same name. We might not share the same brain. But so one of the things too that people have talked about with the tariffs, and I've heard this conversation, it's not about so much as penalizing other people because of, you know, we buy more from them than they sell to us or whatever, or we're going to punish them because they're not treating us right in some other way. It's been, we really want to get rid of income tax. And we used to be able to do this. Oh, he's already started laughing. I'm a stand-up comedian.
He's laughing at you already. You didn't even finish your joke.
And so what we would like to do is get rid of income tax, which everybody's like, I like that, and be able to supply the funding of the government primarily through tariffs.
So when we had a tariff as our funding of government in the early 19th century, government was 1.4% of GDP. So if you can bring us back to 1.4% of GDP, right now it is near 25%. Then it's you know, like David, I'm not disagreeing conceptually, but it is not a serious idea in any way, shape, or form. The tariffs that Trump did in 2018-19 brought in $30 billion. The tariffs he's proposing doing now are $233 billion.
That's right.
We spent $5.9 trillion last year.
Yeah.
You can go to a 400% tariff on every good imaginable. We have no possible way of funding a drop of the size of government with tariffs.
Doge is working on it, David.
Yeah. So, the idea of alternative to income tax mechanisms are all conversations that I think are important. I have my own, I view this two different ways because I'm an incrementalist and a lot of my Christian friends are not. I could go say what I would do tomorrow if I could just blow things up and get an imperial pen and be in charge of everything in one day. But I spend no time thinking about that because it's not going to happen for me or for anyone else. And if someone was in that position, are they really going to tell everyone 70% of outlays are Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, Obamacare? Get rid of all fraud, waste, and corruption, and just decide you're going to dismantle the welfare state overnight because the church is totally ready to take that on in one day. So let's just pretend that we're going to do all that. You've brought it from 70% to 62%. It's not feasible. So you need decades of work to bring down the size of government. And in the meantime, all that's going to happen with that line of thinking is a Democrat's going to run on it and say, yeah, we need the tariff. And oh, by the way, we're going to keep the income tax too.
Yeah,
politicians are not talking either or. They're talking both and.
Yeah.
So, David, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I got questions for Dave.
Well, I was going to ask about, I wanted to kind of go back to that, just more of the history of tariffs, because I know this is, again, one of those places where I think people bring up the history and say, well, for a long time in America, tariffs were a more ordinary. So I'll take your point. The math doesn't work now. We can't go back to that, at least not anytime soon, given the math. But my question, I guess, is a little bit more of a historic one. Was the worldview of our forefathers who primarily funded the government on tariffs for a long time, was it fundamentally different than ours? I know there was a strong streak of protectionism and sort of streaks of mercantilism and this kind of thing. And so as you look back at maybe the first 100 years of our country, 130 years of our country, when that was more normative, was that just a fundamental difference in worldview, or what do you see there historically?
No, it was a fundamental difference in the size and structure of government. And there were state income taxes and local taxes, and there was such a federalism and such a 10th Amendment and such a subsidiarity that the notion of needing that larger revenue base in federal government was totally incomprehensible in the worldview of our founding fathers. Now, the anti-mercantilism that was far more open to creating new markets, new trading partners to benefit importers and exporters. Adam Smith wrote Wealth of Nations in 1776, or it was published in 1776. Yeah. So there was a lot of newness in the early 19th century to this idea, but the amount of products that were what we would call, it was David Ricardo's expression, the great classical economist after Smith, the law of comparative advantage. Yeah. How many products were there that America could import in the early 1800s that produced a comparative advantage? There were some, but it was very, very few. It substantially changed after the Industrial Revolution. I don't think it was worldview. I think it was size of government and global economic reality. The cost of getting things from Europe to America was just monumental. And so the cost advantages that exist in being able to do things intercontinentally is an advantage of the 21st century. And to a lesser degree, but also somewhat robust, the 20th century. So it was different then. But I also believe that the math I'm bringing up is very important. Now, let's not so much even look at Hamilton and Madison with the tariff, but Calvin Coolidge. Yeah. He brought the income tax down to 25% top rate. He brought the capital gain rate down to 12.5. The current top marginal rate's 37 and the top capital gain rate's 20. So if you want to trade a 12.5 and 25 in capital gain and income rate with tariff, then I think that's a significantly different thing than keeping 37, keeping 20, and adding tariff. But that's the difference right now, is that the size of government's exploded. And whether it's tariff or a VAT tax, any new tax that a Republican brings up, a Democrat is going to use far more nefariously later.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, I was maybe a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we were talking on our show, and the expenditures, I believe, in 2019 from our federal government was something like $4.5 trillion. And then 2020
the good old days.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then 2020, it went up to like 6.5 or something like that. And then 2021, it went up to 6.6 or something. Then it went down to 6.3 or something. Then went back up to 6.7. Basically, COVID became a massive justification for the government to now spend an additional $2 trillion a year.
Yeah, well, all government spending are permanent programs. It never goes away. Other than, certain wartime expenditures, but this was a huge danger in the way that it was done. And then if there was not, the 4.5 would not be our baseline. The pre-COVID number would not be our baseline if COVID had never happened. Yeah. Even from automatic increases, Medicaid funding goes up 7% a year. Okay, so that's why when they're talking about the Republicans are wanting to cut Medicaid, which is basically federal subsidies to states for poor people. Yep. And so it does have a certain political advantage to going after Republicans for doing it. The Republicans can gain about $780 billion in their 10-year budget reconciliation bill by some of this Medicaid stuff, and it doesn't cut it from current level at all.
Interesting.
It just cuts the growth that is
future growth,
that's already legislated.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
David, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I feel like it's like I've got I teach an economics class, and I've got an economics like guru here, and I'm just gonna start asking him questions because actually I'm sort of embarrassed that I just said I teach an economics class. Yeah. Because,
this is what his calling in life is.
Yeah, I know. I'm sort of embarrassed, but no, I'm actually chewing on the historical stuff still.
Yeah,
and
I'm chewing on the principle stuff.
And you mentioned the principle of comparative advantage, and you said it was not really a significant worldview difference. Smaller government, different needs, more federalism, more decentralized. All that makes sense. But I was reading Sol's Basic Economics, and he pointed out that we've been subsidizing sugar in the United States since the founding of our country.
Right. Yes.
When they can grow sugar down in the Bahamas for pennies on what we're still doing it to this day. And I'm wondering why did that principle never break through? Why did we not ever say, but look at the comparative advantage of getting our sugar from the Bahamas?
Oh, I don't suggest that cronyism is new.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of the protective tariffs in the 19th century, if you read Henry Clay, I don't want to get into a lot of the stuff on the Civil War, but protective tariffs were a big part of the angst between North and South.
Yep. Right. Yes. I understand that.
So, David,
but let me jump in here with cancel culture that's happened to us. We just got suspended by YouTube again in December twice. Just 2 months ago, twice for 2 weeks each, so 4 weeks total.
What'd you do this time?
We talked about COVID.
Did last time.
We talked about COVID.
We talked about COVID. We had Dr. Ryan Cole on after Congress did their little
hearings
and their study. They released their study. We had Dr. Ryan Cole on to talk about it, and it was just talking about what Congress already agreed about.
We said some naughty words.
Yeah. So anyways, but what cancel culture has made me think of is like, okay, I get that, let's say Salesforce can produce a good product for cheaper than what I can build it right now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right? But at the same time, I kind of want to own my own contact management system because, well, if I get kicked off YouTube and we got 25,000 subscribers and I have all my marketing and sales process wrapped up in Salesforce, well, I think I just kind of want to own that. And the same thing with the sugar thing, just is if let's say the Bahamas all of a sudden gets in a war with us and then we lose our sugar from them, well, I kind of want to be stable in my own country, in my own backyard.
Yeah, I think people will make the national security argument around. So you're bringing up a personal business interest to own data and have kind of business stability. And then I would think that there's a more important discussion around the national side, which is where semiconductors or national security issues will come up. And that's where, again, I still don't know why tariffs are a solution. Is what we're saying, our national security matters. We can't depend on China unless we charge them a 30% tariff. Then we can depend on China.
Facts. You better preach.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
That's
make
good.
any, it's incoherent. Even when he says you're going to fund, listen, this is economics 101. We're going to fund government with tariffs. We're going to make America rich again with tariffs. And we're going to bring all the manufacturing jobs back.
Yeah.
Well, which one is it? Because if you're getting all the tariff revenue, you didn't bring the manufacturing jobs back.
Yeah.
You're still buying
Well,
them from
but
the
they're
foreigner.
But they're arguing that, hey, manufacturing will come back because tariffs are higher and it'll incentivize manufacturing here in the U.S.
Then that means you're not getting the tariff revenue, which is fine.
Yeah.
It'll go down.
It doesn't work.
But then my argument is you're not getting the tariff revenue. You're now allegedly bringing manufacturing back. If you were right that the reason you didn't have it was because of foreign competition and not because of changes in the American labor force, which they're not right about.
Yeah.
But then you have to move. The most important process in all of economics is to move from the visible to the invisible, from the short term to the long term, from the way it affects one group to the way it affects all groups. 3 lessons of Bastiat. Who hurts?
Yeah.
What are the exporters in America that now have a lost opportunity cost?
Yeah.
Right.
So all you're doing is picking winners and losers in that scenario. But back to the national security argument, I do believe that there is no scenario in which we should be dependent on foreign actors for any supply chain component that is crucial to American national defense.
David,
if just real quick, if you're enjoying this and you think you've got some friends that need to hear this economics gospel that we're getting from David Bahnsen, make sure you like and share the show.
So I want to go back to the principle thing. I've still been kind of chewing through this. I think you hit something that's really a nerve, particularly people who are in our group. We're very principled people. We have a standard that's extremely high. And I think some of this is going to be really embodied probably in Thomas Massey and Ron Paul, what I'm about to say. So knowing what the standard is and what the objective is, that seems to reign really high on our achievement list. So we want to jump right to that. But we live in the real world where we can't make those jumps as fast as we want. But anything that we do, we feel like we're compromising our position. And then we never get there because we know that people become very complacent after a move is done. And so you've seen it, Ron Paul. I mean, people always say, what did he get done inside of Congress? What did he get done? Well, really not much at all, right? Except he held things back. But you wouldn't get Doge without him, I don't think. You don't get guys like Massey. So how do you make the moves where you're very principled? You have and this is why I think you're good for me. You're like the other side on the shoulder talking to me. You're never going to get anything done. How do you get
evil
stuff done?
side?
No, I think it's the good side because I don't think I would get anything done because I would feel like I'm compromising every time I did something in order to make the needle move, even if it moves my direction a little bit.
Who's on the other shoulder? Is it like Gary North? Or?
Yeah, well, it's my strong Vietnamic hardcore group
Gary
of
North.
guys.
It's Gary North.
Gary North and David Bahnsen.
Gary North and David Bahnsen.
And David, I think you understand where it's like, you take.
I know we're on different shoulders. Yes.
Sometimes you guys hold hands. I just want you to know that. But do you understand what I'm saying, though? And I think there's a large group of us that are like, I'm not compromising my principles. And if I do this thing, and we see this all the time in the pro-life movement, and I think I've reconciled that. But when it comes to the economy, now you have this, we do the same thing here too. And I find myself cheering for Massey. And at the same time, I'm like, but did we just move the needle a little further down the right direction?
Yeah. So, I got this from Greg Bahnsen. I believe that one of the most ignored books in the Bible is the book of Proverbs. And it's ignored because it does everything Christians don't want, which is it requires them to pray for and seek after and earn wisdom and discernment in difficult moments and situations. The stuff you're describing is prudential. A guy like Massey would be totally on board with certain principles that we'd agree with about right-sizing government. The question is, from a matter of wisdom, are we going to better right-size government by being obstructionist to something that is going to pass anyways, or by holding the line to try to get a better deal? and some form of incrementalism. Now, a lot of people say incrementalism just failed. It doesn't work. I would say that incrementalism has never been tried. And actually, I could provide all kinds of examples where incrementalism obviously has worked, because it is very hard to raise taxes in this country. We have a top rate of 37%. And when my dad was a kid, it was 70%. And the highest it's been in my lifetime was 39.6. And it spent most of my childhood at 28. And the political environment right now, the Democrats, the far left Democrats, when I was 10 years old, Walter Mondale ran against Reagan and said, we have to raise taxes on the whole middle class. And at the time, middle class was $35,700 a year for single and $44,000 for married, or something like that. Now the Biden administration says, I will not raise taxes on anyone under 400,000. They've totally moved the needle because we incrementally changed the dialogue about tax cuts. So David, to your point, it is not compromise to realize that we have made promises with government checks that are going to get paid, and I believe should get paid, but we need to stop making the promises and now begin peeling back those promises in the future. That's not compromise. I'm not suggesting that we sin to get to a greater outcome. I'm suggesting it's not sinful to incrementally work towards this strategically. I'm sorry. I don't think most of the purists here have a plan. I don't think they have a strategy. Therefore, I don't think they have wisdom.
David, related to this would be the school choice stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of states are doing this. They're some kind of voucher program or tax credits or this kind of thing. What's your general take on it? Or have you seen it done well? Have you seen it done poorly?
I have seen a couple done poorly, but it doesn't need to be done poorly. And you said vouchers and credits, and there is a very big difference.
Right.
The concerns that a lot of people have are that the government will have a say in what the education is in certain mechanisms. The most successful programs, I think 14 out of 16 states that have implemented school choice bills that I like, are credits to the parents, not money to the school. Right. And so it does not require Title IX. It does not require government control of curriculum. It is essentially a recognition that the parents have already paid as property taxpayers in their local municipality, and that they are choosing not to use the local state school system, and that therefore they deserve their own money back. And I have absolutely no problem with it whatsoever.
But in a lot of these situations with
I'm sorry, Toby, let me finish real quick. Because I never spent a day in my life in a public school, and that was because my dad was generally involved with the schools. And so he was able to put us there by nature of his connection. And my kids have never spent a day in their life in public school because I'm in a financial position where I can't afford it. I would, as a matter of pragmatics, means test the school choice. I would not give David Bahnsen a tax credit. Okay. And that's largely because my priority for school choice is those who legitimately cannot afford it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, with credits, though, that means there is some redistribution of wealth going on, because some people are receiving credits beyond what they actually paid.
Yeah, but I'm not. That's a child tax credit, where the first time ever allowed them to go negative. I'm not referring to those types of credits. So there's two different categories.
Okay.
If you're receiving a credit that is a payment, it's a subsidy, and it's essentially renamed welfare.
Right.
Okay. If you don't pay taxes and you get a refund, then that's not a credit. Okay. That's renaming it, and they're using the word credit. And Vice President Vance has done this with his child tax credit idea, but it's just I don't want to be rude. It's inaccurate understanding of the English language. A credit is you owe $14,000 in taxes, but you get a credit of $2,500, so you pay $11,500.
Right.
That's not redistribution.
I think, and maybe different states are doing it slightly differently. I know, like Idaho just passed a school choice bill.
Tax credit. It's tax credit.
Yeah, but I guess it's unclear to me whether it's working the way that David is talking, or whether they're using that word credit as a cover for basically
redistribution of wealth.
Well, you're saying
refund.
At a state level in Idaho, you're wondering if there people who have $0 tax liability could get a refund.
Yes.
I would be absolutely shocked if that's what they're doing. It doesn't mean they're not, but I have not heard of that.
Okay. I'm because the only requirements I've heard is that you actually there's a cap on income level to make you eligible for it, which speaks to your point.
Yeah.
That people that can afford it should pay for it. But I'm not sure people under I think people under that income level are going to pay very, very little taxes in Idaho. And in which case, I don't know why are they getting that money?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. If those people are paying property, is your state school system funded by property taxes?
I believe significantly,
100%.
yes.
So
50%
I don't know enough with Idaho to speak educatably here.
No.
If they are paying $2,000 in property taxes and getting $800 back in state taxes, and they don't owe state taxes because their income bracket is not high enough to have to pay, I would still argue that is a credit functioning the way it's supposed to. But fundamentally, I do not believe in credits or school choice that is funded with dollars in circulation where it is not a return of money people have already paid.
Right. And that's that's what I need to do some homework on and find out for sure. But I'm concerned about that same thing.
Yeah. And if that does happen, that's still not a concern about government control. That would just be I don't mean it pejoratively. I just mean it descriptively. That would be a welfare program.
Right. And I think
I would prefer that people of that kind of low means and financial wherewithal for their kids' education, there are plenty of people like that. And I have a heart for them, but I believe that should be addressed from the church and from the schools and from private charity.
Yeah,
100%. 100%. We always appreciate you, David.
Man,
absolutely.
You are
you so
awesome.
much.
And thank you for this welfare visit.
Yes, to Cross Politics Studios.
Look forward to the next one.
This voluntary welfare.
Yeah, that's right.
We always appreciate you, sir. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Appreciate you very much.
Thanks for your time, David.
Love you guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
What's the most important thing you do each week? It's go to church.
That's right.
What happens for a lot of the service? You know it. You sing. So music is taking up most of that most important thing you do. We want to know, how musical is your home and your kids' curriculum? Bonet Music Academy teaches live music lessons in Moscow, Idaho, and online, currently serving 28 states. At Bonet Music Academy, we teach music as a language. That means you get voice and instrument training. This helps each student get really good at reading, learning, and practicing all kinds of music. We also partner with Christian schools and co-ops to expand their curriculum needs. I really love that part of the ad in particular.
Yeah.
So like you're a small Christian school or co-op and you're like, we wish we had a music class.
You got one now.
Bro, go to bonetma.com/crosspolitic. That's BOHNETMA.com/crosspolitic. And set up a free consultation. Talk to our friend Sean Bonet about your family's or your school's needs. And as a bonus, we'll tell you 2 funny stories about Gabe in the consultation. It's still there. There's still promising.
You got to read it.
Yeah. So just call him just for the stories. Like even if you're not really sure you need it, like you'll be like, okay, 2 funny stories.
I need
about
to hear
Gabe.
about this.
I mean, Sean Bonet he's a dude.
He's hilarious.
And he's not kidding.
Yeah.
Like
no,
when you
he'll
say,
tell him.
You're like, but what about the 2 stories? Like I'm sure he's got a list.
I'm going to call him because I want to know.
You want to
about
know?
the story.
So tell Siri to make a reminder, or Alexa, whoever. To
Siri.
Go to bonetma.com/crosspolitic. That's BOHNETMA.com/crosspolitic and schedule a free meeting today. Also, don't forget hats. Don't forget the hats. You see the hats? You can't see the hats. Come on. You can see the hats? See that? There you go. There's the hats. Okay. So for this next month, up until Easter, this is an Easter
promotion.
That's what we call it. Promo. Everybody that signs up between now and Easter to become a pub member, Cross Politic pub member, Fight Laugh Feast pub member, you're getting put in a drawing to get,
Trump 47
hat, because Trump He's trying to kill the
Hacking away at
Department of Education.
It could also represent the new fighter jet, F-47.
There you go. That too.
Trump 47,
There you go.
F-47.
So, and everyone who's already a pub member, plus the new pub members, we're doing 2 drawings. So we're going to do a drawing for this one at the Easter, and we're going to do a drawing for both of these, Mecca, Make America Christian again. Oop, wrong way. And NSA.
The quality of the NSA hat.
Oh, it's so wool.
It's so old school baseball to me. Is that old school baseball?
Oh yeah, totally. It's 100% wool. Old school
we should
baseball.
Send one to Mark Dewey in the bullpen
for sure. But everybody that's already a pub member, we appreciate you. We love you. We thank you for supporting this show. Everyone else, hey, jump on board today. Enter into a hat drawing. Join the pub, join the club, support this.
Thank you.
Again, if this was a helpful show for you today, if this was stimulating, encouraging, share it with a friend.
Was for me.
We really appreciate it.
Crosspolitic.com. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
Imagine a Christian college so desperate for worldly approval that congratulating an alumnus causes an institutional crisis. C.S. Lewis wrote that modern education is designed to create men without chests. In our ghastly simplicity, we castrate and bid the geldings be fruitful. But not at New St. Andrews College. We don't aspire to be the evangelical Harvard, selling our spiritual birthright for a pot of pious platitudes and federal financial aid, or doubling down on DEI until we are DEAD. Tucked away in the chimney of Idaho, surrounded by rolling wheat fields, pine forests, and fully intact bulls, we offer a Christian liberal arts education for outlaws and pirates. We don't feed the victimhood that afflicts young snowflakes, and we refuse to be manipulated by activists wielding their skin color and pronouns, or nice guys wielding their respectability and angst. And when the French are storming the Bastille, we won't tuck tail and run from empathetic mobs. No, we won't be steered by the emotional sabotage of the left, because we're anchored to the Word of God. Our aim is to graduate leaders who shape culture under the lordship of Christ. And when the Lord elevates them to positions of power, we'll celebrate the men and women of courage that we've launched into the cultural melee that surrounds us. We'll even congratulate faithful alumni of other institutions. So congratulations, Russ. You too, Pete.
But redemption is real.
And JD, tell Margaret we said hi.
I don't really care, Margaret.
New St. Andrews College.